Chapter 11. As the captain appeared in the doorway, children of all ages scooted in and around him. Some of the children were almost as tall as the captain, some barely higher than his knees. Mike stared wide-eyed. John Wesley pushed to the forefront. "Don't worry," he said to the captain. "We don't think our brother's contagious." "Contagious?" The captain hesitated. Rolling his eyes, John Wesley lowered his voice to almost a whisper. "And we're almost sure it isn't smallpox." John Wesley crossed his eyes and began scratching his arm and chest. Two of the smaller children immediately copied him. The captain nervously backed away from the doorway, bumping into Mrs. Ray, who had just joined the group. "Has the company doctor seen your son who's ill, ma'am?" he asked. "My son?" Mrs. Ray's eyes widened, but she quickly recovered. "As you can see, your company doctor has his hands full. Michael's in recuperation, will soon be well." One of the younger children stepped on the captain's toes as she shoved her way out the door. Pain lined his face as he dodged her path. "How many children do you have, ma'am?" he asked Mrs. Ray. "Mr. Ray and I have been blessed with quite a large family," Mrs. Ray said. She put her hand on her forehead of a little girl who was scratching vigorously. "What's the matter, Liviana?" she said. "Are you not feeling well?" "Mrs. Ray," the captain told her, I would like to search the rest of the house." "Do whatever you must do," Mrs. Ray answered. "The children will accompany you." "That's not necessary," the captain barked. His footsteps beat a swift tattoo as he strode down the hallway, most of the children at his heels. John Wesley looked at his mother. "I wasn't fibbing." "Well, not exactly." Smiling, Mr. Ray put a hand on her son's shoulder, then turned to Mike. "Mr. Ray and I have taught our children that when a law is terribly unjust, it is wrong to obey it," she said. "To take you as a prisoner at this time, Mike, would surely mean your death." "Thank you, Mrs. Ray," Mike mumbled. Yet he wondered. Mrs. Ray was a good, kind woman who taught her children to be just, yet she owned slaves. How could anyone believe that slavery was just? "Sleep well," Mrs. Ray said. "Most of the troops have gone north to occupy Springfield. The others will soon leave. You're part of our family for the present. You'll be safe here with us." But it wasn't long before Mike had another visitor. Corey came to Mike's bedside and smiled down. "You look a lot better than you did, Mike Kelly." "Thanks to you," Mike said. "And to Mrs. Ray. She'll take good care of you." "You know what happened to my company, where they went?" Mike asked. Corey shrugged. "Last I heard, your Major Sturgis was still leading his army northeast. Someone said the Yanks were heading to Rolla, far as they could get from us Confederates." He blustered a bit as he added, "That may have to run all the way to St. Louis." Mike didn't want to hear Corey brag about the Union Army's defeat. Besides, there was something important he had to discuss with Corey. "Your friend Jerry," Mike began, but Corey interrupted. "Jerry Logan's no friend of mine." Mike got right to the point. "He stole my friend's pocket watch." "I know that," Corey answered. Corey didn't say anything else. Mike burst out. "Todd's father gave him that watch, and Todd wanted it to go to his sister Emily if he was killed, and I promised to take it to her. Jerry has to give me the watch." "No, he don't. Jerry took the watch off one of the enemy. Sorry, off your friend. If Jerry hadn't taken the watch, somebody else would have. You didn't see, but all the camp followers were going through the pockets of the dead and wounded." "Corey," Mike insisted, "I've got to get the watch, and I've got to get Jerry," he thought, fighting to control his rage. "You're in no shape to take it away from him." Corey couldn't help smiling. "Now, I'm not about to be the one getting in the middle of a fight over a plain old watch that could be bought in any general store in Missouri, so don't ask me to do the job for you." Mike exploded. "It's not fair." "Who said war was fair?" Corey reached down to give a rough pat on his shoulder. "Goodbye, Mike Kelly. Hope we never meet up on a battlefield again." "Where are you off to?" Mike asked. "Springfield, Sterling Price's outfit." Good, Mike thought. Now he knew where he could find Jerry. Corey grinned as though he could tell what Mike was thinking. "When I next see Marta," he said, "I'll tell her that you haven't changed a bit and you're still as aggravating as any red-topped bantam rooster." Mike managed to smile in return. "Good luck, Corey." Funny, Mike thought as Corey left, he had just wished good luck to a Confederate soldier who'd soon be in combat against his own army. Well, it was no crazier than Federal sympathizers owing slaves. Generals countermanding each other's orders, or fathers and sons on opposite sides. Mike shut his eyes, recalling the two men, young and old, who lay dead in each other's arms, father in blue, son in gray. His head hurt, his eyes were too heavy to open again. He burrowed in a pillow and once again escaped into sleep. Mike wrote to his family, but he didn't describe the battle. He wrote simply he'd been wounded, that Mrs. Ray and her family were taking good care of him, and they'd soon be rejoining his company. They could write him at his army address. The last of the Confederate troops had left the area, so Mike didn't worry that he would be discovered and taken prisoner. What bothered him was that there was no way to get word to his own company that he was alive. Over the next few weeks, Mike didn't lack for visitors. Even at night, he had company. The Ray boys piled into other beds in Mike's room, and John Wesley slept on a pallet on the floor. The room was filled with gentle snores and whistles of heavy sleepers. All was peaceful until Mike shouted through his nightmares, waking the other boys, who grumbled in frustration. Mike never told them that the memory of battle haunted him by day were even worse in his dreams. What had become of Harley and Billy and Sergeant Gridley? Mike was afraid to find out. Some of the younger Ray children were steady visitors to Mike's room. Each of them described their fright on the horrible August day. Olivia shook her head until her dark brown curls bounced. "Wesley and Liviana and me were herding our horses in the valley south of the spring house, when all of a sudden up rode a Confederate soldier, scaring us half to death." And John Wesley interrupted. "He yelled at us to get out of there and said, 'There's going to be fighting in less than 10 minutes. Liviana gasped and said, Ma said you weren't supposed to repeat that, Wesley. Looking smug, Wesley answered, I'm just telling Mike what the soldier said is all. Well, I'll be quiet because it's my turn now, Olivia answered. Everybody, even Aunt Rhoda and Wiley and their children and Mr. Short, the postman who works for Pa, all of us hid in the cellar for hours and hours with nothing to eat but a pan of biscuits Ma scooped up when she ran through the kitchen. There was fighting all around us, Olivia said, and we had to stay in the cellar till the battle was over. Not all of us, John Wesley broke in. Ma and Aunt Rhoda went outside to tend the wounded when they heard the soldiers being brought over to the house. As soon as the fighting was over, the federal prisoners were taken. Pa was made to help escort the prisoners to Springfield, Olivia said. He had to walk there and back, over 25 miles each way, because the Confederates stole all our horses. And one of the rebs stole my friend's pocket watch, Mike muttered. He told the children the story, fighting to keep his voice steady as he told Todd. Now Emily will never have her brother's watch, Liviana said sadly. It's not right, Olivia added. But John Wesley quizzically raised one eyebrow and lowered his voice. If I was you, Mike, I'd go find that polecat Jerry Logan and sneak in his tent after it was dark and snatch that watch back. Mike nodded. He could see himself slinking noiselessly in the shadow of the place where Jerry slept, searching for the watch, finding it easily, slipping it in his own pocket. Why not? Hadn't himself insisted that nothing was impossible to accomplish if you put your mind to it? And then, if he had a knife or a gun... He gasped, shaken at a strong desire to kill Jerry. It was like running to the edge of a precipice, Mike thought. He had come so close to planning Jerry's murder. To kill an enemy during battle would be one thing, but to take a life in revenge would be nothing more than murder. Did he really hate enough to murder? No, Mike whispered. No? John Wesley looked surprised. You aren't going to go after your friend's watch? The watch, yes, Mike said. I am. Then why'd you say no? Never mind, John Wesley. The point is I am going after the watch. John Wesley's eyes grew wide with excitement, but Olivia announced, That's a stupid idea. It's far too dangerous. Liviana hopped from her perch to the end of the bed, a self-righteous look on her face. I'm going to tell Ma. She ran from the living room. Olivia ran with her. Mike wasn't worried. Mrs. Ray would put the story down as a childish fancy. After all, he walked with a limp. He'd grown pale. He'd lost weight. He looked a long stretch from being able to take on a man as full of good health and energy as Jerry Logan. But Mike knew that careful planning he could work out a way. In the meantime, he'd help Mr. Ray sort the mail in the post office he set up in the front room. The few people who came to the house from neighboring farms assumed that Mike, who was dressed in hand-me-downs from Mrs. Ray's older boys, was a recuperating Confederate soldier, and for Mike's protection and their own, the Rays allowed them to think so. The visitors were full of information, both true and exaggerated, about conflicts going on through the state of Missouri and the comings and goings of the Union and Confederate armies. Mike was especially interested in the news from John Green, one of the Rays' neighbors on Wire Road. It was he who reported the Confederate generals McCulloch and Pierce had returned to Fort Smith, Arkansas, while General Sterling Price had resumed his command over the Missouri State Guard and marched his men north to Lexington, a town high on the bluffs overlooking the Missouri River. He was poised for attack. On August 30th, Green scowled as he announced that federal fool, Major General John Fremont, proclaimed martial law, ordered an automatic death sentence for guerrilla fires, and stated that all slaves owned by Confederates in Missouri are now free. Mike looked toward the kitchen where Aunt Rhoda was stirring a batch of biscuits for supper. She had paused for just a moment. Had she heard the news she was free? I wonder what that's going to mean for Missouri, Mr. Ray asked. It'll mean exactly nothing. Green scowled, turned to a chuckle. Speaking rash won't do Fremont any good with the president. You think he wants to lose all the slaveholders on the Confederate side? On September 30th, Green crowed. Fremont had enough good sense to pull the army out of Springfield and back to Rolla. Well, who hold Springfield now? Mr. Ray asked. General Sterling Price. Green answered proudly. Price's army overcame the Union garrison. How about that? Another Confederate victory. Mike shuddered as he remembered how Harley compared the moves on a chessboard with the moves of the armies at war. War wasn't a game, it was pure horror. He'd testify that any time, any place. Mike had been a guest of the Rays for over a month and a half when he decided he couldn't stay a moment longer. Although his leg ached and he walked with a limp, he couldn't remain inactive while the war raged on. Mike told Mr. and Mrs. Ray it was time he went back to his outfit. Oh, Mike, just another few weeks, Mrs. Ray pleaded. Mike's well on the mend, Mr. Ray countered. If he feels it's time to go, then we'll do what we can to help him reach Rolla. His forehead puckered. I wish I had a horse to give you, Mike. I know the Rebs took all your horses, Mike said. Mr. Ray sighed. Who knows when they may return and take the 2 I bought last week? For a moment his eyes darkened. He quickly continued. One of our new neighbors, Marcus Peebles, is driving a wagon load of corn to market in Springfield tomorrow. He can give you a lift that far, and if you avoid whatever Confederates are camped out in Springfield, you might get lucky enough to get a ride from someone going on to Rolla. Mike could hardly contain himself as John Wesley, acting as messenger, rode one of the horses to Marcus Peebles' house. To Mike's delight, Mr. Peebles sent back word for Mike to meet him at 6 the next morning in front of the Ray house on the Wire Road, which they followed to Springfield. Mrs. Ray brought Mike his uniform, washed, mended, folded, and a jaunty forage cap resting on top. When you're finally back with your company, she said. Mike rolled the clothes so they could be tied into a makeshift pack. John Wesley brought him a waterproof knapsack to put him in, along with a change of drawers and socks that his ma had put on the bed. The next morning, the whole Ray family was up to give Mike a good send-off. Mike was embarrassed by the hugs from the girls. But he wrapped his arms tightly around Mrs. Ray. "I'll always be in debt to you. You saved my life," he said. "Safe journey to you, Mike," Mrs. Ray whispered, tears in her eyes. "I pray you'll return home safely to your family." Mike hugged Aunt Rhoda, who gave him an encouraging smile. "You listen to Mrs. Ray, Mike. Soon you 3 months are up. You get along home. The army's no place for girl and boy." "Mike," John Wesley whispered eagerly, pulling him aside, "what are you going to do if your friends watch? If Drury Logan's camped near Springfield, will you try to get the watch away from him?" "I don't know yet how I manage it," Mike answered, clenching his fist in determination. "But Drury isn't going to end up with that watch. Emily Blakely is." As Todd climbed to the front seat of Marcus Peebles' wagon, he fought back the fear that sat in his stomach like a ball of lead. Drury Logan was tall, wiry, and strong. What chance in the world would Mike have to keep his dangerous promise?